You're listening to Out Cincinnati. It is May. We are just over a year old, right, Melissa?
That is right.
We need to have a proper party with a cake and some whiskey or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking because we had a whiskey celebration to start off our first show, and I guess we'll have to have it like a virtual clink of the glass.
Right. Of course, I drink every time we do this show, so I mean, we just have to make it official. Let me tell you, this week I'm so excited. Queer Eye, the show that's on Netflix now.
Yes.
Okay, so there's an older version of it with Ted Allen. He's got a show on Food Network, and Carson Kressley and all those guys. And they're going to be facing off with the current cast on Celebrity Family Feud, and it's all for charity.
Oh, awesome. So what's it going to?
It is going. I knew you were going to ask me. I was going to actually have to read this article. Let me see. So they're facing off for charity, and it doesn't say, maybe at the bottom. Oh, to benefit Glisten. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah,
cool.
He will be playing.
It looks like it's going to air May 31st.
Yeah. So I just see Glisten mentioned in there. So yeah, check it out. I found it on out.com. And I'll post it at OUTCincinnati.com about this
I love that show. That is such the best.
Well, yeah. So come on, Queer Eye cast, old or new. Let's make over both of us, and it'll be a dual episode,
Exactly.
And we can just have a thing. Speaking of episodes, on this week's episode of Out Cincinnati, you know how there's a lot of Pride events that have been canceled, put off, postponed, gone virtual, this kind of thing. Well, I wanted to reach out to Hamilton Pride, who are planning their first year of the festival, and find out what is going on with the festival this year, if they're planning on having it, and what their options are for other options. And then we'll talk to Emily Meyer. She's an attorney at the Southwest Ohio Legal Office for Equality Ohio, helping out folks with legal matters in the community. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 WVXU HD2, 1660 AM, and anytime at OUTCincinnati.com. Emily Meyer is a staff attorney in Equality Ohio Legal Clinic Southwest Ohio office, and Emily reached out to me to talk about the services the clinic offers. Thanks for being on Out Cincinnati. How's it going?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Pretty good. I've just almost finished Tiger King. Are you getting there?
Oh, I finished it a couple weeks ago, Chris.
and how was? And are you satisfied? Have you watched the bonus episode?
I have not. I mean, has it been posted?
Yeah, Joel McHale. I haven't watched it yet because I'm not there yet, but I know it exists, and I love Joel McHale. I have a little crush, to be honest, and I will watch that. I have to watch it in order because I was so tempted. But yeah, it's out.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. So, what else are you? Just a fun question. Then I'm going to get to the clinic. What's fun question? What else are you binge watching while we're all quarantined?
Let's see. I'm still finishing Schitt's Creek. I'm into the 5th season, so I know they just wrapped the 6th season. So yeah, getting caught up on Schitt's Creek, and I'm about to start Ozark. Which is also on Netflix. I'm still in the 2nd season of that one, so I'm getting caught up there as well.
That show is amazing. I was going to say, if you haven't started it, that show is really something else. So, what is the legal clinic? I know you opened. It was January of this year. and things are kind of morphing with what society is not turning into, but what we're kind of accepting as a new normal. What does the clinic do, and how is the clinic kind of morphing to meet the needs?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm going to back up a little bit if it's all right, and kind of just generally talk about Equality Ohio generally, and then how we kind of got to the clinic and where we are today. So yeah, for folks who don't know, and sometimes in Southwest Ohio, folks don't know as much about Equality Ohio, the nonprofit. We were founded in 2005, and if you were around back then and paying attention to the LGBTQ community in like 2004, 2005, that was when, unfortunately, 2/3 of Ohio voters voted to add an amendment to the Ohio Constitution that banned same-sex marriage. And so, that's a huge loss. Took an L.
I remember that. I was just graduating UC. It was like,
okay.
So I wasn't thinking about marriage yet, but I was like, something else. Okay.
Yeah. So that was, obviously a very big disappointment. And so a group of about 60 or so LGBTQ Ohioans and allies organized and decided, hey, we need to get together. We need to organize so that we are never, this politically powerless again. And so that was sort of, the founding of the nonprofit. And for the first, dozen years of its existence, focusing on advocacy and education for the LGBTQ community statewide. And then sort of as things happen, folks began to associate Equality Ohio with advocating for changing laws to support LGBTQ folks. And so they connected LGBTQ and law. And we, of course, had lawyers on staff, even if they weren't really practicing. But we started getting a lot of calls from folks being like, hey, I got this legal issue, like, what do I do? How can you help? And since we didn't at that time have a legal clinic providing direct services, we would refer them out to culturally humble attorneys. But after fielding so many of those calls, our leadership began to think maybe thinking strategically as the future of the nonprofit, maybe there is a place for us to have an LGBTQ specific legal clinic. Providing free legal services to LGBTQ Ohioans. And so, of course, it's a nonprofit, so you're worried about funding. You have to, apply for grants and all of that. And they finally got the funding and everything sorted out. And so we opened, the legal clinic opened, last February of 2019.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong, Chris. The Cincinnati office just opened in January of 2020. The original plan and the hope was to get enough funding to open up offices in the 3 Cs, right from the beginning, Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati. Yeah. Unfortunately, we didn't get as much funding as we had hoped for. And so we just opened up offices in Columbus and Cleveland, where Equality Ohio already had existing offices. And so I saw the job posting. In a former life, I was an IP attorney for a couple law firms here in Cincinnati, and kind of made a career change. And I saw the posting for staff attorneys for the clinic, and I was willing to move anywhere because I wanted the job so much. So I was hired as the Cleveland attorney. And so all last year, I was opening up the Cleveland office of the legal clinic. And then towards the latter half of the year, we finally got the funding sorted out so that we could open up the Cincinnati office. And since I have, all my connections are down in this part of the state, I was born and raised in Dayton, Ohio. And so I was, raised my...
Go Flyers, right?
Go Flyers! Oh, we could go off on a tangent, Chris, to talk about this past season, the basketball season, I mean.
Where did you go to school, actually?
Well, so I went to Ohio State for undergrad, but then I went to UD for law school.
Okay.
Yeah. And just growing up in Dayton, huge Flyer fan my entire life. My grandpa's had season tickets since I was a little kid.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Yeah. So you're working in your neighborhood still, like in Cincinnati, you're still
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know where I was in the story, but yeah, long story short, I moved back down here over the holidays, and we're getting set up. And so, yeah, our Southwest branch of the legal clinic has now been up and running for now, what, 3.5 months. So
does Columbus service Dayton, or what's going on is there a Dayton office?
we don't have a Dayton office. Like Dayton, the Dayton region would be part of my region.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
like sort of Southwest Ohio. Dayton and Cincinnati are kind of like Cleveland and Akron. Like they're kind of considered together. Yeah.
So what do these clinics do? I know you were talking about the Cleveland one, and then opening up in the 3Cs. So who can get help? And I mean, I know that's a big question, but I saw the brochure. It looks really, really cool, really helpful.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect question, Chris. So yeah, we provide free legal services to LGBTQ Ohioans who are within 300% of the federal poverty line. And so just as a comparison, maybe, to folks who, when they think of legal clinics, they might think of your legal aid office. Legal aid societies typically, their income threshold is around 200% of the federal poverty line. So ours is a little bit higher. Of course, we're taking a subset, we just serve LGBTQ folks. But when you're talking 300% of the federal poverty line, you're still not, rolling in the money.
What does that mean? Just so I can you give an example of like how much somebody would have to earn?
Definitely. So it does depend on like your gross income in addition to your household size. So, how many dependents you have. So just as an example, if you live alone, you have no dependents. And in 2020, if your income is like below, I think it's around 38,000 like gross income. So a single person, no dependents, and you're below 38,000 roughly.
Just as an example, just so right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like I know a lot of people are below that, and a lot of people see. So it seems like a lot of folks can seek out that aid the clinic is offering. So you were talking about the different levels. Go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. I do want to say, if folks contact us and they're not part of the queer community, or they make too much money, they're outside of our threshold, we don't just say, goodbye, see you later. We very much, part of our mission is to refer folks, and particularly folks in the LGBTQ community, refer them to another attorney who will be welcoming and respectful, and what we call culturally humble. So that they can get the legal assistance they need with an attorney who will be welcoming to them. So that is also part of our mission.
Do you know the origin of that term, culturally? That's the first time I've heard that. I love it.
Oh, I do not know the origin, and I should not say that we made it up. I'm certain that we did not.
I was hoping you had. That would have been a really cool story.
No, I certainly can't claim credit for it.
So, right. No, I mean, that's awesome. I'm going to start using culturally humble. It's someone who's just kind of aware.
Yeah. Some people use culturally competent, and that's a fine phrase, but sometimes, I mean, can you really be competent about identity when it's fluid and it's always changing? Competent, just to us, you're sort of overstating it. I sometimes.
Humble like makes me think accepting,
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, this my inner linguist coming out, right? So, so how can the clinic? You were telling me when you wrote me about evictions and different unemployment issues as a result of this virus. Is that a specific problem? That's honestly something I never gave any thought until you mentioned it to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, particularly unemployment. I mean, there's just mass layoffs.
Yeah, that part I know. It was more the evictions, because I can imagine a situation where that would happen, but maybe if somebody wasn't paying rent, I guess.
Exactly. If they're all of a sudden out of a job, and even if they are going to file for unemployment, that system has been overloaded and they're still processing everyone's applications. Folks can't pay rent, then, the landlord isn't making money. But then, the landlord as a business, also might be facing trouble right now. And so, but then you add in, could a landlord even proceed with an eviction, because courts are largely closed these days. They're not totally closed, but courts are generally running on skeleton staff, or reduced staffing to flatten the curve, and so they're only really taking emergency matters, criminal matters, where folks are in jail. So just the whole process. Folks have questions about rent, and do they have to continue paying rent? And what if, what happens if they don't? Folks have questions about even just exposure to the virus. Like, what if your landlord has to come in and do some repair or maintenance? You can imagine on both ends, both parties, I imagine, would be worried about exposure. How willing is the landlord going to come into a place if they have no idea how clean it is? And then from the tenant's perspective, do you want to let a landlord in? You don't know who they've been exposed to, or how diligently they've been social distancing.
Right.
But then if repairs aren't done, then do you still have to pay rent? There's all these questions, and since the courts aren't open and agencies aren't open, we're starting to get a lot of calls on those types of questions.
Emily Meyer is a staff attorney in Equality Ohio Legal Clinic's Southwest Ohio office. Emily, when you're telling me this tenant stuff and this unemployment, I know people, and in my business has taken a kind of a dive. I'm getting ready to possibly apply myself. I kind of want to call you tomorrow. I mean, how can people? We'll talk more about what you can offer service-wise, but how can people kind of see what you offer and make that first contact?
Yeah, so if folks have internet access, you can find us online at equalityohio.org/legal clinic. And if you want to get a hold of us, for intake, there are two basic ways to reach us. We have a toll-free number if you're a person who likes making phone calls, and the toll-free number is 855-LGBT law, toll-free, and then also online, if you can submit your inquiry and your question online, again, going to equalityohio.org/legal clinic. And there's a link there for intake. I will also plug, because we are all social distancing, and Equality Ohio is no different. I used to be holding in-person sort of office hours where folks could drop in, and I was at Caracol in Northside, doing that on Tuesday evenings from 3 to 7. Well, of course, I'm not doing that in person for the time being. So we've gone completely virtual. So again, if you go to our website and find the clinic, you can click on. There's a link for Cincinnati intake hours, and you can schedule time with me on Tuesdays. And if the Tuesday time slot from 3 to 7 doesn't work for folks, of course, we can talk with you at different times. But Tuesdays from 3 to 7, I am just generally available, sitting by my phone, waiting for people to call me. So that's a very good time. And you can just schedule that time ahead of time if you go to our website.
So if someone picked up the phone and called you and they said I've got this issue, and maybe they're kind of trepidatious about calling because they're thinking, well, this is just going to be free for the first 5 minutes and then it's get out your visa. And I know it's not like that, but is it top to bottom coverage or representation? I mean, it kind of sounds like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. Maybe I should talk to these people.
Yeah, no, free means free. And I mean, I say that as someone who, again, in my former life, in my law firm life, I gave a presentation on advertising and specifically using the adjective free, and what there are regulations about using that word. Anyway, no, free is free. Again, if you meet our income thresholds and otherwise, qualify for our services, you will never receive a bill from us for our legal services. Now, the thing that you could be on the hook for, again, because we are a very small nonprofit, we don't have like a pot of money sitting around to front court costs or to front filing fees. So like if if let's say, Chris, you came to me because you wanted to change your legal name, pursue a name change. Well, there's a filing fee associated with that. And so you as the client would be on the hook for the filing fee. It's not something that we could pay in advance and then you'd pay us back. Like we don't have this pot of money sitting around. So those types of things, any fees involved in what we're trying to help you with, in whatever the legal matter is, those would have to be, paid by you.
Well, compared to what, when I've tried to consult lawyers for matters in the past, it's always been, $750 down because they don't want you to waste their time. So that's really good to hear. Is there a way that folks can get involved with the clinic as far as volunteer attorneys? I know there are some areas, some cities where that's a possibility.
Yes. Oh my gosh, totally. So I think I mentioned earlier that, if we can't take a case for whatever reason, maybe it's outside of our practice areas, or again, maybe you as a potential client are outside of our income threshold. We have this attorney referral network where which we're constantly building out of attorneys who don't work with us. They have their own jobs or whatever, but they're willing to take, a case every so often, either on a pro bono, level, and they won't charge, or what's called low bono, like they'll do it for a reduced fee. And so yes, any attorneys out there who would be willing to take cases, as many cases as a person wants, if it's just one a year or 5 a year or whatever, please reach out to us. We can add you to our network. And yeah, I mean, just speaking personally, I'm definitely trying to build out our referral network in Southwest Ohio. So.
No, that's beautiful, and it's a great way to get involved. There's so many people. I'm thinking of folks I graduated with who are now attorneys. I want to say, hey, so and so, go check this place out and give them a hand, even if it's like one day a week. I mean, I can't imagine. I've never been a lawyer. I'm not even close, but I can imagine a couple hours wouldn't kill you. So I want to ask you, Emily, what are the challenges in Ohio now? Like, what are people coming to you for help with? What are you actually seeing?
Well, okay, do you want me to talk about like our practice areas?
I mean, like, what do you see? What are people like that actually can tell you what the actual problem, like what folks are seeking help for, is what the actual issues are. We see in the news, we have what the fight for rights is now, and what are you actually seeing in the day to day as far as what people are actually battling, like as far as the LGBT community?
Sure. One big one is, and this has been going on forever, since we do not have a statewide non-discrimination law that covers gender identity and expression or sexual orientation. We see folks all the time calling us, they're fired for being gay, and how is that even legal in 2020? And we say, oh yeah, it is legal, unless your employer happens to be located in one of, I think we're up to like 28 or 30 municipalities in the state that the municipality itself has a non-discrimination ordinance. But no, I mean, it is legal to fire someone in 2020 because we don't have a statewide law that says otherwise.
Folks don't realize, like, there is legit fear because you don't know what's on people's minds, and you're just in there trying to do your job. So it's a really hard thing to prove. So legal advice is really important there,
right? Totally, and it's boggling. We had in 2015 was the Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision that said same-sex marriage is totally legal. So now you have a person who they can get married, but they risk their job if, let's say, they put up, a family photo of their spouse, or a wedding photo in their cubicle at work. now they're risking their job just for celebrating their marriage, and the marriage itself is totally legal.
A challenge that I have a hard time believing is real, but I know it is, because I know there are folks who are all across the spectrum of, the acronym, who have different challenges, and it's rough in different environments, because there are so many different kinds of work environments as well. I want to thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Emily, to tell folks about the clinic, or how to get involved, or where should folks go to find out that first bit of information?
No, I mean, I already gave our contact information. Find us, on our website. I will say I'm going to just do a little bit of plug for
Sure.
I want to encourage everyone to vote. Part of how we get laws changed is by electing people who are, supportive of the community. So please vote. And you may have heard you may have heard about getting your ballot in the mail by April 28th. It actually has to be postmarked by the 27th. So get it in the mail by the 27th. And then I also just, again, in this time of crisis, please support your local communities and just your neighbors in any way you can. And particularly support the LGBTQ owned businesses in the area. I know you can look to, if you Google like Cincinnati Mutual Aid, there's lists upon lists of ways you can help. I just think as we're all isolated in this time, any way we can help whether it's with your vote or it's with your dollars, try to help in any way you can.
Hi, this is Emily Meyer from Equality Ohio's Legal Clinic. You can find out more about our legal clinic and the services we provide and submit an intake form at equalityohio.org.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati. It's getting to be Pride season. It's kind of rough for me personally to get excited with how the world has changed, because I don't know if there's going to be a Pride. So I wanted to talk to two folks who are kind of starting something new this year in Hamilton, Ohio, Taylor and Jordan from Hamilton, Ohio Pride. Welcome to the program.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I want to talk about the actual festival. It's scheduled for June, but how do we keep the spirit of Pride alive? Because we'll get to the nuts and bolts later. We really don't know what's happening with June yet. So how do we keep this in our hearts? I know it's philosophical to start.
I think it's been something that we've definitely been wrestling with, especially given that we are a first-year event. We're really loath to put the event off or cancel it or anything, but we're also cognizant that that may be a choice that's out of our hands. So, we've really just been thinking about ways to connect with the LGBTQ community in Hamilton during the month of June, even if we meet up with people online or that kind of stuff. So, we'll see what we can come up with. But yeah, Taylor.
So is it going to morph into something, Taylor? Something online, do you think? Or are you going to try to have something in September?
So we've talked about, if we are in the position where we need to postpone our event, having an online presence of some sort, or some sort of a kind of online event on the same day, because I think we're all looking for a way to connect and feel like things are a little bit normal. So even if we do have to postpone our Pride event, I think we'll be looking for a way to connect virtually.
Because it is scheduled for what day in June as of now?
Our event is scheduled for June 13th as of now, and we're kind of anticipating that may change depending on the way things progress over the next month and a half.
I mean, you could totally do a drag show virtually and have it be local queens and just own that on Facebook for an afternoon, and folks do what they do at home.
Absolutely. We would love to have just any kind of online presence, whether it's, something pretty big or just, a simple Facebook chat or something like that. Definitely thinking about those kind of options.
So this is Out Cincinnati. We're talking to Jordan and Taylor with Hamilton Pride, and it would be the first ever, right? And was there was there the community kind of wanted this event, or how did this get kind of come to fruition, the idea?
So
Sure.
there was a Pride event in Hamilton for Butler County, I think in the early 90s, but that was kind of before our time.
Right.
So the way that this organization was started is the Fitton Center for Creative Arts, which is our arts organization in Hamilton. They reached out to a lot of people in the gay community to know how they could start to become a little bit more LGBTQ friendly and maybe change some of their programming to address our community. And that connected enough people that we started to talk about having a gay pride event in Hamilton, and that's what morphed into our event.
So what's yours and Jordan's background then, as far as this event? Were you with the arts organization?
So I started, I was involved in the event because I was one of the first people invited to talk to the Fitness Center about what they could be doing. And over the course of about 6 months, some different conversations happened that evolved into the conversation about having a Hamilton Pride event. And at that point, we reached out to a larger community to start to pull together our committee, and that's when we brought Jordan into the picture. I don't know if Jordan wants to start.
So what was your background before? Obviously Hamilton Pride's not your day jobs, and so, or it could be.
Yeah. No, unfortunately, it is not my day job, but I was so really I got involved because Taylor's husband, also my coworker, asked me if I would be interested in attending a meeting, and this was, I think, last October, so the conversations had been going on for quite a while, almost a year at that point, and I went to the meeting and listened to what everyone was talking about, and when we left the meeting, I told Taylor that if we were going to do it, it needed to be like we kind of talked about it and we decided it needed to be an actual like full nonprofit. We needed to, go all in on making it happen. I was really excited about the prospect of helping to plan the first, our first Hamilton Pride. And so we, at that point, started to figure out the process of becoming a nonprofit, doing all the legal stuff, pulling together bylaws, figuring out a board structure, and then we started fundraising at the beginning of January. We really wanted to make it something that was really exciting and would be make a big splash because it really hadn't been done in the community, at least since the 90s.
So folks maybe would in the 90s, it was a different, because we said it wasn't our generation. Maybe folks need an event because they don't remember the one from the 90s. So that's cool that you're doing that. What has been the community reaction? Because when I go through Hamilton, the first thing it's not the first thing that comes to mind. Well, this is a really gay town. I mean, no offense. I just think of some of the
None taken.
Some of the small minds that I'm not calling any names. I'm just thinking of every stereotype, right? What has been the reaction?
Yeah, so I think that honestly, I was a little bit surprised by how positive the reaction was. I mean, I'm not saying that we got 100%, people on board. But when we announced the event, we had a lot of people on Facebook. So our Facebook page at that point, when we announced the event, had about 20 people who liked it. And we got 80,000 people who saw our post, and we got I would say, hundreds of comments, Taylor, hundreds of shares from people who were very excited about it. And obviously that's just Facebook, but overwhelmingly there was a pretty positive reaction. So it tells me that there's a lot of people in the LGBTQ community here in we're not rural Ohio, but we're certainly more rural than like downtown Cincinnati. So it tells me that there was a big desire for it
and what
to
they
happen.
what they always say is like, oh, the LGBT people are everywhere. I know that sounds so strange to say because I'm of the community and we all are. It's just we're everywhere. So Hamilton, it makes sense. We could have a pride in every town. We need to. So
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you what your favorite spots are in Hamilton. You know, as I drive through, there's so many cool little spots to stop, have a drink, have a sandwich. Where do you like to go?
So we have a lot of really nice bars and restaurants in our downtown area. And we have a Dora, which is a downtown outdoor refreshment area. So you can get drinks and walk around with them. That's all a huge plus for our community. But there aren't really a lot of gay spots in town or gay bars in town. It's
there's no queer cafe yet?
No.
Folks can get more information on what's going on with Hamilton Pride, whether it's sticking with June. Right. And what's the actual website? HamiltonOhioPride.com. Okay,
Yeah,
I got it right. HamiltonOhioPride.com, and on social media, Hamilton Ohio Pride.
Chris, your fantasy is about to become a reality. I want you to share this with our audience.
Well, I got this puppy mask for the COVID-19 protection thing for when I go to Aldi's, and it's got a COVID-19 mask with puppies all over it, and I ordered a poop emoji iron-on thing for the front of the mask, and that's not the funniest part. The funniest part is I talked to my best friend, and he's like, Chris, if you iron the poop on the front of the mask, how are you going to breathe through the poop? And I said, well, we'll just take a pin and push holes through the poop, and that way we can aerate the poop and I can breathe.
See, fantasies do come true. Inspiration by Chris on Out Cincinnati.
I'm gonna have poop right next to my face.
And what is it you're going to say to people when they see your poop emoji?
Sorry for being filthy with you, or excuse my breath. Something along those lines. I'll stand 10 feet back. And I say, what kind of day are you having? And I'll point to my mouth.
Chris, thank you. Thank you so much.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati. It's true that in these trying times, we could all use a laugh. Karen Williams is a comic MC, host, motivational speaker, and humor educator. And you can get a laugh this week as she's having a comedy event on Zoom. Thank you for being on Out Cincinnati.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that I get to do something in Ohio.
Yeah, so May 8th is the big day for this kind of Zoom comedy event. It's a showcase, right?
Yes, it's a showcase of my students. I do conscious comedy, stand-up comedy classes, and I was doing them out of my office at the LGBT Center of Cleveland. And since we've been closed since mid-March, I went online and I just put it out there, and I've had a couple of classes of students, and this group is really a great group, and I had to focus more on writing rather than improv games and things like that, so that's been very new for me too. I mean, we weren't able to do physical warm-ups or anything, So it's been a learning process for me as well, and I bonded with the students, and we're doing a great show on Friday night.
So how many students do you have presenting, and are you presenting a set as well?
Oh, yes, I'm the host, and I'll introduce every one of the comics. There's 5 of them, and they're different. It's a diverse group, age-wise, race-wise. I mean, it's just going to be a really wonderful kind of a time. And so the tickets are $10, and or as I put, lesbian sliding scale, which the lesbians will get, more if you can, less if you can't. And
I don't. Can you explain that? Can you explain that to a gay man? Because I spent most of this afternoon trying to understand what lesbian sliding scale meant.
Well, you know, when I would talk about a couple of the contributions that we made to the culture as a whole, one was the potluck. Everyone knows the infamous potluck. That was just a time during those consciousness-raising groups with women, and particularly lesbians, that we just brought over tuna casseroles and salads. And so we, you know, helped to create and make potlucks a cultural institution. And then the lesbian sliding scale, which was more if you can. So if it's $10, if you want to pay more, great, and less, you know, if you can't. And that seems really equitable. I mean, I tried it with my mortgage, and Wells Fargo Bank wasn't having it, but I
understand that. Yeah, Chase wasn't feeling that with me earlier this week either. So it'll be on Zoom, right? And you were saying,
it's on Zoom. I have the meeting ID number. I have a flyer. I don't know if I should give the meeting ID number or not, but I have, you know, if anybody wants to know, they can either inbox me on Facebook, messenger me, look at my HaHa Institute website. I can get the information to them for sure.
And I have the flyer. We'll post it on our Facebook at OUTCincinnati, and that hahainstitute.com is a really good place to go if you want to just like reach out to Karen and say, hey, what's the what's the code for Zoom? You know, because not everybody knows what Zoom is. I still have to learn. So
you know, this is a whole new world for all of us who are performing. I just signed up with Sage in New York City. They're getting ready to do a show on May 21st. I mean, people are becoming Zoom savvy because that's what we've got, or Facebook Live. I've been doing things on Facebook Live, and it's just wonderful the way that people are finding platforms to reach out, especially artists, because all of my work is gone. So,
yeah,
but I'm
in-person
busier
stuff.
than ever.
Right. You're kind of having to reinvent it. We're talking to Karen Williams. She's having a comedy event this week, May 8th. It's all the details at our Facebook at OUTCincinnati. How do you determine what the audience reaction is when you do comedy on Facebook Live? And I know that's a very basic, simple question, but how do you tell if people are laughing or if you're jiving with the audience? I don't know the right terminology.
Well, you know, the most beautiful thing about having a career as long as I have, I'm 36, 37 years in, is I've got a ton of fans. They almost expect to laugh from the time I say my name. They're sending me hearts. They're sending me thumbs up. They're making comments. I can see the comments. And then, of course, it's posted afterwards on my Facebook page. So I just basically get on there and talk about whatever I want to talk about, and sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's a little serious, and yet, you know, I always get a really good response. So I've been very pleased with it.
That's cool.
It's a little more challenging. What I like to do is almost everybody's muted, but we'll leave about a dozen people unmuted so at least we can hear some laughter.
Right, because I've been watching, for example, the Tonight Show and it's hard to not have some kind of audible. You're used to it.
We're used to it. We're the codependent artists in the group. You know, a musician with a guitar gets up there, plays, sings. Who cares, right? But comics, we're used to hearing laughter, and when we don't, it's kind of psychologically different for us. But I'm learning.
It has to be fabulous for timing for it to have laughter too, because you kind of can do the next bit or joke at the tail end of it, or feel what kind of laugh it is. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. So, are we going to get back into comedy clubs, like one-on-one, group-to-group, you know, where we just like chill and have a drink and laugh, or are we having a new normal here?
I have no idea what the new normal is going to be. I mean, as long as we have to socially distance, I don't know that we'll be back in the clubs anytime soon. So I think that the way that we're going might be our new normal. I mean, if I can sit here and talk to you and tape in my office, that beats the heck out of trying to figure out what I'm going to wear on a plane. Do I put on a hazmat suit and a mask? And, I don't know how safe it is for Black people to wear masks on the airlines. We have to take these things into consideration. It's America.
Yeah, do you have any COVID-19 humor going on? I mean, not a Black person wearing a mask joke, unless you want to do that. I mean, what I don't know. I've heard that people were dipping their masks when they walked into stores, and people were getting fired up about that. Like there was some kind of nod your hat kind of thing, like when you walk into.
I have no idea.
Oh my gosh,
don't know.
it's so weird.
People like me who are kind of, I consider myself like that true artiste personality. If I never went out, it would be okay with me.
Oh, I feel that. I've been working remotely for my main job since 2011, and I love it. So, So the website, HaHaInstitute.com, are the workshops that are there the same ones that these comedians have gone through that are appearing on May 8th on Friday?
Oh, no, these are comedy classes. These are online comedy classes. Those workshops are really that's my business model. Those I do for nonprofits and for corporations and small groups, small and large groups. So those are my abstracts are there. There's Let's Laugh About Sex. There's the healing power of humor and stress management in the workplace, finding joy in diversity. So those are just some of my offerings. And then depending on what an organization wants or needs, I consider them humor education workshops. We can sit and talk about a combination of those or create something else. So that's kind of my business model stuff. The comedy classes just came out of, like I said, being at the LGBT Center and wanting to really connect with the community around Cleveland. And so that's what I gave as an offering. And what's really exciting about doing it on Zoom is one of my students is from Maine, another is in Philadelphia, another one is in Oakland, California. So I wouldn't have these students if I was just doing it in Cleveland.
And think about the diversity of just backgrounds you have right there, and then accents and types of humor and jokes, different, because it all comes from your background, I imagine. So this is May 8th on Zoom. You can get all the details, HaHaInstitute.com. For folks who want to hire you you can come into organization and teach how humor can be used in all of those types of situations that you mentioned.
Absolutely, right? Especially for stress management right now. I mean, some people, you and I sound like we're doing okay, but some people are really living with heightened levels of anxiety, stress, tension. But, for me, I live in a world of uncertainty. I don't really know when my next gig is going to be, so my life is kind of programmed towards not knowing, and so I'm not having the same kind of anxiety that other people may be having. And in some ways, I think we need to attune ourselves to, my friend was saying to me, what about people, essential workers who are being asked to go back to work, who have children? Who's taking care of their children while they're working? And,
no clue.
I'm not in that bracket right now. I'm not in that space. And so I really hadn't thought about it, but I had to think back. I have 2 sons, and if I was in this situation and had to go into work, what would I do? So I think that it has an opportunity. I'm reading a book called Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community. It's by Dr. Martin Luther King, and he addressed some very real issues about how to deal when we're trying to make change, when some people want change and some people don't. And I think this pandemic is really bringing to the surface, how much do we want to change? How much do we want to just devolve into chaos, or are we really going to use this time for community building? And I would really like to see the latter happen.
Yeah, I've been connecting with friends that I never would pick up the phone and call. I'm actually staying with family now just through this time because they need a little extra help. So it is nice to see the positive and build some community around it and laugh our asses off a little bit.
That's right. While we're doing it, right?
Yes. So this Friday, May 8th, it is on Zoom, hahainstitute.com. I'll post everything at OUTCincinnati.com and on our social media. I want to ask you one fun question. What is the most important object you own? Just for fans that like kooky little facts.
Most important object I own, probably my grandmother's cast iron skillet.
Oh my gosh, that's got to be beautiful.
Yeah,
and it means
beautiful.
so much. Okay.
It means a lot to me. Yes, I loaned it to a person who was fighting cancer and wanted the iron richness of the skillet. And unfortunately, she passed. Her sister got the skillet, and I had to be bold enough and say, I want my grandma's skillet back.
Oh, well,
yeah.
Extra memories and iron skillets can cook like the devil. So that's good stuff right there. Yes, yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen, and please stay in touch.
Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Wayne.
And I'm Ashley, and we're the hosts of the Slay Queens podcast.
And you're listening to Out Cincinnati 91.7.
And speaking of listening, you can check us out on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and all of the major platforms.
Slay, Queen.
So, Melissa, it's seeming like we're going to have to keep pride in our hearts and right in our living rooms this year. I mean, I hope something happens in person that we can accomplish, maybe at a drive-in, maybe like at that drive-in in Hamilton, since I was talking to the guys, the folks from Hamilton Pride.
Well, I have a great idea. People can get some Out Cincinnati swag on OUTCincinnati.com.
And wear it around, or wear it in their living room, not around.
I know, or maybe take a picture of it and post it to us on our social media account. Hashtag Out Cincinnati 2020 Pride.
Out Cincinnati 2020 Pride. I love that hashtag. I think we need to make it trend.
Yep.
I will get my Out Cincinnati swag out and participate. So let's get that going.
Or rainbows. We don't care.
Yes,
anything,
rainbows, yeah.
or whatever
you
your colors that you like, you know.
Let's
represent.
see your pride.
Exactly.
What's the hashtag again? I already forgot it. I did not write it down.
Hashtag Out Cincinnati 2020 Pride.
Perfect. And I also want to thank Emily Meyer from Equality Ohio, Southwest Ohio Legal Office. That's a mouthful, but basically they help out people in the community who need that legal help, and it's completely free of charge. And you can find out kind of what they can help with at Equality Ohio's website.
Excellent. So Chris.
And sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Cut that out. Go ahead.
So Chris, since it's our year anniversary and we want everyone to celebrate with us, I was thinking, like, just because a year is coming around, that we might air some of our favorite episodes from last year, or at least have them available on the podcast. So if Chris would kindly repost some of our faves from our first year up and running here at Out Cincinnati, could celebrate that way, and then everybody could listen to us when Chris and I were together in the same place at the same time.
We'll post a new episode every day, and it'll be educational, and it'll be because you have the hours to fill right now anyways. You might as well. There about 40 hours plus of Out Cincinnati probably up there now, so plenty to listen to. I'll get those links up at OUTCincinnati.com.
Awesome. Get our listeners listening to that. So just a reminder to our listeners, if you would like to support Out Cincinnati, you can find out more information about that at our website at OUTCincinnati.com. Also, don't forget swag, Out Cincinnati swag. And,
swag, yes.
And if you would like to contact Chris, Not me. No.
Oh, well,
Please,
I'm
no, if
don't forget,
either
I'm
one
in
of us.
lockdown. I think no. Go ahead. Yes. How do you get in touch with Melissa?
Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or
At
OUTCincinnati@gmail.com. So
That's
thanks
correct.
for listening. We hope all of you are well and healing and staying safe out there. And we appreciate everybody who went out there and worked so hard during this stay-at-home.
You talk about
Order.
healing. I only do that when Master's around. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week. And this is Out
Out
Cincinnati, streaming live on radioartifact.com, 91.7 WVXU, HD2, and at 1660 AM.